Will you please stand for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please turn your cell phones off or on silent so it won't disrupt the meeting. And Chris, will you call roll?
Heidi Larson.
Yes.
Gary Kepley.
Here.
Ashley Overton. Here. Susan Braun. John Hedges.
Here.
Erica Weaver. Present. Michelle Swindle.
Here. At this time, it's not on our agenda, but with Susie being gone, I need a motion and a second to appoint Ashley Overton as our secretary pro tem.
Motion.
Motion by Erica, second
Yes.
by Gary Kepley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. You're it.
Go for it.
Okay. Item 2, reception of visitors agenda. 2.1A, we're going to recognize Steve Conlon, who was inducted into the Illinois Basketball Hall of Coaches Association Hall of Fame. The Mattoon Community Unit School District 2 Board of Education congratulates Steve Conlon for his induction into the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame, April 30th, 2022. We are not surprised that Steve would receive this honor, as he has been a leader, mentor, and coach to many of our students for years. Jamie Sharp, athletic director, Mattoon Middle School, perfectly describes Steve as never being about the scoreboard. Steve competes to win, but his focus has always been on developing the person and the athlete and helping them to be a good person in whatever they do in life. Steve, a retired Mattoon School District teacher, was also a leader in the classroom, providing support to students in class and also helping them through personal challenges. The stories are numerous of Steve and his late wife, Nancy, also a teacher, extending their assistance to students above and beyond what is expected. We are proud that Steve is a part of the Mattoon School District family, and we are pleased that he has earned this honor. It is well-deserved recognition. Steve, would you like to introduce your family that's here tonight?
Yes. I'd like to introduce Paul, Ryan, Jared, Allie, wife Lana, Megan, granddaughter Claire, and Grace.
Thank you, Tony. Would you like to say a few words?
It's been just an absolute honor and thrill. Basically, just been my entire coaching career in Mattoon. A lot of people to thank, family, of course, but great teachers to work with, great administrators to work with. And again, when you look at a coaching career, you first think about the players and the kids. And we've had some amazing kids at Mattoon Middle School. Just fantastic kids. It's been an honor. It's been a thrill. I do it all over again in a heartbeat. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here. If you want to find some seats, or you're welcome to leave.
And I also want to say all the coaches I work with as well.
Thank you.
Paul, are you next?
You want me to be? I'll go twice as long as him.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Item 2.2, non-agenda. I two slips filled out, and the first one is Stacy Hermanson, and you're up to talk.
Okay. I'm Stacey Hermanson, parent of kids in the district. I'm also a member of the Matching Huddle. So for those of you who don't know, the high school football team has a parent group called Matching Huddle, and they do tons and tons and tons of things to support the kids. They buy equipment, they send the kids to camp, we're buying 4 iPads for the coaches this year so they can use the new technology we have with the new stadium. And so the huddle does a lot of financial support for our football team in the school. And so we had our first of the year meeting last week, the week before, something like that. They have a concern. We have a concern. And so Jeff Owens brought it up, and I said, you know what, I'm in a school board meeting, they love it when I talk, and so I'll just bring it up. So he said his concern is the press box that we have. There are certain restrictions, from what I understand, so we don't have to put an elevator in, so it has to be a certain size. And his concern is that there are gonna be so many press entities in that small space in one room that he's afraid it's going to be really difficult for any kind of communication to be clear and not have confusion, because you're gonna have your opposing team and home team, your announcers, your radio guys, all that stuff. And we got to talking about the LIFT program and how that, we're just starting with that, and it's not, we don't even know what that's gonna look like in 5 years, 10 years. And what if our communication department just, takes off and we've got kids who wanna be up there in addition? So I just said I would mention it to the board just so you guys can chat about it too, because I know he's talked, I think Tim, he said he talked with you already or was gonna talk with you, but I said I would just bring it up to the board so you guys can talk, and maybe if if there's plans to adjust, but it's just as someone who's in the broadcasting field, he wanted the cohesion to be good with our new LIFT program, and we're spending all this money on our sports field. So, we don't want to skimp out on the communication part of it. So I just wanted to bring that up for you guys to think about, discuss, and info, and then you would be the best person to contact.
Thank you so much, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
And now I have Richard Linder.
Hi.
Would you like to stand up?
Yeah, I wrote a little note here.
Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Richard Linder, and along with myself, my wife, my daughter, son-in-laws, and other family members, I want to thank a special teacher, Miss Tanya Reynolds. She is a teacher through the Birth Through 3 program through Franklin Elementary. Miss Tanya was my daughter Lexus and her son's guardian angel last Wednesday, May 11th. On that day, my daughter Lexus and her 2 sons were in a real bad car accident on 6th of Charleston. At the scene of the accident, the car was flipped over on its side, and Lexus was not only had to get herself out, but also her 2 sons. As the boys were being removed in the vehicle, Miss Tanya had come up to the scene, recognized the family, and took the boys and helped pull them from the wreck, and got them in the ambulance and took care of them until their mom got put in the ambulance. And, excuse me. And she was consoling them and until their mom was pulled from the wreck and put in the ambulance. The immediate emergency contact, I was their immediate emergency contact, so she had automatically, while she was in the ambulance, had called the preschool and had them get a hold of me and realized I live next door to Franklin and I'd be there real quick. So the secretary called me and told me, and I was there before they closed the ambulance doors. When I got there, Miss Tanya was in the ambulance with the kids, had them calm down, looked at me and says, they're gonna be okay. And I looked around, none of them was bleeding, and I thought she was gonna ride to the ambulance, to the hospital with her, but they wouldn't let her because she was family. So not only she did that, I took off to the hospital, the ambulance had left. And while Alexis was in the emergency room within a half an hour, she had got a hold of Alexis and her husband, that she had acquired 2 car seats for the kids, because she knew they were gonna need ambulance, so. So I got a present for Miss Tanya, along with my daughter Alexis, just for the thanks and the above and beyond. She's an amazing, wonderful person.
Thank you.
Christie, do you
And
want
this,
Oh, yeah.
this is Lexus and her 2 sons. Come on up here, bro. They did, get some other injuries, so they're dealing with whiplash and, concussions and stuff, so they're still recovering. So this is Rowan, and that's Billy.
It's okay.
She wants to get a picture. Come here, buddy.
Just
Stand right here.
Look at the camera. Can you just move up just a little bit? Come on up here. You're all right. I'm gonna get your picture taken. Hey, buddy, can you just look just a second? Give me your funny face. Just give me your funny face. Okay, it's okay. He doesn't have to. It's a lot of pressure. Good, smile. You guys look good. Really good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tanya, please know that as a district, we're all very proud of you and just can't say enough good things about what you did.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So the official business happened now.
Thank you for coming. Item 3, consent agenda for board action. 3.1, approval of minutes. 3.1A, regular board meeting, April 5th, 2022. 3.2, financial payment of bills. 3.2A, presentation of the bills for approval. 3.2B, monthly financial reports by fund. 3.2C, fiscal year 22 budget to actual report. 3.3, approval of enrollment report. 3.4, approval of Dustin Stoltzfus's annual district asbestos inspector. 3.5, appointment of Tom Sherman as district IMRF authorized agent. 3.6, resolution authorizing the payment of custodial and maintenance salaries from the operation and maintenance fund for June and July 2022. 3.7, approval of MHS volleyball team to attend overnight volleyball camp at the University of Illinois, July 15th through July 17th, 2022. 3.8, approval of Freedom of Information report. And 3.9, approval of the consolidated district plan. So I just want to make sure. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, will you please call roll?
Ketley?
Yes.
Overton? Yes. Hedges?
Yes.
Weaver? Yes. Larson? Yes. Skidmore?
Yes. Thank you. Item 4, reports and recommendations of the business manager. Mr. Sherman?
Yes, at this time I'd like to introduce Bruce Combs and Jim Wolf with Johnson Controls. They're going to do a presentation of our performance contract that we have with them. And Bruce has been around here enough, he probably knows the system better than I do. So should be kind of in the top left corner there, Bruce. Yeah, there you go.
I don't zoom off the page. So I'll just sit down. Might not get up, but I can sit down.
For somebody
strong,
We get a chair.
You want a chair? No, I'm good.
It's also touch screen if you want to just,
Already warned him about
okay,
that.
there you go.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna be here because I like to.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
You sure? No, I'm good.
As Mr. Sherman indicated, I'm Jim Wolf. I'm with Johnson Controls. I'm here actually to celebrate or commemorate a long-term relationship between Mattoon School District and Johnson Controls. I guess not. All right. I guess you are driving me in. So I'm here to commemorate a long-term relationship between Mattoon School District and Johnson Controls. As you can see, we've been partners for a long time, and that commenced back in 2004 when we partnered and collaborated on an energy savings performance contract that was designed to reduce the then high school's energy consumption and thereby reduce the overall operating costs associated with that particular site. That project's success led to then 2 more energy savings performance contracts, and we are honored to say that we are also part of the partnership that is amongst all of the contractors and supporters for the LIFT Center as well. So the focus of today's discussion is to talk about the success of these programs. So when we talk about energy conservation measures relative to the energy savings performance contract, what we're really talking about and the initiative that we undertook was to look at those systems that consume most of your energy, and predominantly those are your systems that are used to provide heat and air conditioning to the system, to the schools, and your lighting system. So we undertook a program, or implemented a program that was designed to either retrofit, replace, or upgrade all of those systems. And this is symbolic or representative of all 3 of those energy savings performance contracts. It's this magnitude of project. So I understand that some of you have familiarity with the energy savings performance contract, maybe some more than others. So I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly and hopefully provide enough information for both sides of that equation. So again, the energy savings performance contract is designed to reduce your energy consumption, which also then reduces the overall operating costs. So this slide is a celebratory slide. If you can see the arrow, through year 15, the school district has realized about $9 million in benefit from the investment that was made that I just described. So clearly a successful program, and interestingly enough, it nearly matches the target, right? So you slightly exceeded the target, so that's something clearly to be celebrated. Go ahead, Bruce. When we, as I indicated earlier, all of that energy savings in dollars is derived from energy reduction. And when we look at the energy consumption for the high school, the energy units that we're talking about are electricity and natural gas, and they're measured in kilowatt hours and therms. And each of those have their basis in British thermal units. So it's difficult to consolidate the 2 in their inherent billing format or in their inherent quantities. But because they share the same base that is the BTUs, we can actually combine those and derive at what's called an energy use intensity that gives us a benchmark, or it gives us a level playing field against which we can compare other facilities. This particular one looks at the high school, and one thing I wanted to point out here is that when we look at the blue columns represent the expected energy consumption had no changes been made. So when we look at weather conditions and other things, you can see that the blue columns suggest that your energy consumption would have remained at a fairly high level. Because of the investment made by the school district, your actual energy consumption as reflected in the green has been less than what was expected. So this reinforcement and the difference between the 2 is visually indicative of the savings, right? The difference between those 2 columns is your savings. The reason I wanted to highlight this particular slide is that if we look at the 15-year or 16-year profile here, what's also apparent, at least to me, is the downward trend, right? So the investment was made in this equipment some 16, 17 years ago, and it continues to perform well, but this downward trend is a function of the operational decisions that are being made by the staff responsible for operating this site, right? So not only is the equipment doing what it's supposed to do, but the operations staff are further enhancing the savings by making the right business decisions or the right operational decisions to further reduce your energy consumption. So that's the first win I wanted to talk about tonight. So as I mentioned before, that these are all based in energy consumption, right? So when we talk about the energy use intensity, we correlate it to thousands of BTU per square feet. And again, this gives us the benchmark against which to cross-reference the schools. And you'll see when we look at the thousands of BTUs per square foot for the 4 schools that are the high school, the middle school, and the 2 elementary schools. And when we look at the energy consumption for 2021 versus 2020, a couple things were apparent to me. First of all, middle school performed about the same for the 2 years. The high school and Williams Elementary, from an energy consumption perspective, both reduced their energy consumption. Again, that's a great thing, right? So same square footage, size of the building didn't change any, but your energy consumption came down. One thing that kind of stuck out here a little bit was Riddle Elementary. You can see that its energy consumption increased 2021 versus 2020. And that's a function of about a 9% increase in your natural gas consumption, which could be weather related. That could speak to the difference between weather in 2020 versus 2021. But there was also about a 31% difference in your electric energy consumption, which we believe speaks to that increased energy consumption. We don't have a handle yet on what caused that to occur, but we welcome the opportunity to work with the school district to try to identify what caused that to occur, if for no other reason than to do a root cause analysis so that we can prevent that from occurring again to the extent that it's something that's controllable, right? Entirely possible that something went wrong, right? And often in our world, in Bruce and my world, sometimes those decisions lead to, hey, let's fix this. And that Band-Aid never really gets ripped off and the stitches come on, right? So we might need to take a closer look at that particular building. We welcome the opportunity to do that. So that next year when we talk about this, we can show the consistency across the sites, right? Go ahead, Bruce. So when we correlate that same kind of analysis or that same cross-reference or the benchmarking, if you will, when we look at convert then those energy dollars or energy consumption to the actual dollars, you can see that it kind of corresponds, right? So for the most part, the energy consumption was where we would expect it to be. Again, looking at Riddle, the energy cost on a per square foot basis was a little bit higher, but it's all those unknowns that we just talked about, right? One thing of note on this particular slide is that you may think Williams Elementary is a bit of an outlier, right? Its cost per square foot is significantly higher than the other 3. It's important to note that the high school, middle school, and Riddle, are all supported by Ameren. Williams Elementary is supported by Coles Moultrie. Completely different rate structure, completely different cost basis. So don't be too alarmed by that differential, right? That there is a known event. But what I do want to point out is that its cost per square foot came down, right? Cost basis was a little bit higher, but again, from a cost perspective and an energy consumption perspective, it was moving in the right direction. So did I explain that okay so far? Okay, go ahead, Bruce. So here's our second win. Yeah, this is the part that Bruce and I got excited about. Several years ago, your administrative leadership made a decision to engage in an energy procurement strategy based on budget stability. And we began a campaign and a series of contracts to fix the price of your commodities, in this case, natural gas. So the decision was made several years ago to procure energy on a fixed price basis. And the thought process there is, we may not win every month, but what we're really protecting against are these peaks, right?
I'll do this, Jim, you talk.
Yeah, I'll say maybe. What we're really protecting against are those peaks, right? Those run-ups in the market where costs become, in some cases, prohibitive, right? So the decision was based, and we don't want to have to make the decision whether or not to send the kids home because it's going to cost too much money to open the schools, right? So theoretically. So there was a fixed price strategy that was implemented. And what is important to note when we look at these three flat lines, each time a new contract was implemented, the price became lower. So you actually were taking advantage of low points in the marketplace to procure your purchases, procure your energy at a lower rate than what you were paying at that time. So a tremendous strategy, and when we look at what's occurred over the past 12 to 18 months, this strategy has proven to be exceedingly beneficial to the school district. What's important to note is that that little green line extends into 2023. So as we consider this market volatility and all of the short-term prognostication suggests that that volatility at that level is expected to continue for quite some time. So I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate the administrative leadership and their decision to engage in this sort of a strategy. So, any questions there? Strategy applied also to the electric market. Same story. I won't go into great detail here, other than to note that this shows not a whole lot of differential here, because this is based in the difference between 3.58 and 3.24 cents per kWh, right? Not a lot of differential, but again, moving in the right direction, taking advantage of low points in the marketplace, protecting against those run-ups, and really celebrating the protection that has occurred here more recently. What's not on the screen is a contract that's already in place for 2022, this summer, through the summer of 2025, and it's important to note that it will be at a lower level as well. So, and again, the short-term prognostication is that market level volatility at that range or at that gradient is expected to continue through that time period. So we hope by 2025, we'll be back down here where it's a little bit tighter, but would be for the benefit of all. So win number 2, right? Great strategy. Wanted to share this with you too, as you consider these costs as we go into the future. You may have heard in other dealings, right, or even in your concerns here, how are we going to protect ourselves? We're hearing in a lot of the news that natural gas and electric energy prices are going to go up, right? You're protected. You're protected from that perspective. So win number 2. So when we talk, as part of preparing this presentation and putting together our annual report, we look at all of your usage, all of your utility bills. And one of the things that we found in that process was that one of your suppliers had inadvertently duplicated one of your cost components. We were able to point that out and negotiate on behalf of the school district. We were able to negotiate a $3,900 credit that came back to the school district as a result of that. So just simply having a third set of eyes looking at your utility bills, we were able to identify that and get those dollars back to the school district. So win number 3, that's what we call the trifecta, right? Win, win, win. So you can see here the benefit, much of what I just described. I hope I didn't go through that too quickly or too slowly, but I did want to just take a couple minutes to celebrate that trifecta, right? So the investment made years ago has proven to be successful. Great decisions made with regard to budget stability, and the partnership has netted you dollars that maybe you didn't even know were coming your direction, right? So, and we look forward to continuing these sorts of services and this sort of partnership as we look at and continue to develop that on the lift side. So that's all I had. So any questions for me, for Bruce?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Bruce, you need help?
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. We're ready to move on to the next one? Maybe. Maybe we'll
Tom, you want
stay here. Yeah. Okay. All right. 4.2 is the presentation of the tentative.
Thank you.
amendment. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Bruce.
Be safe.
the amended FY '22 budget for final approval on June 30th. There's no action on this evening other than to set the budget hearing for noon on the last day of our fiscal year, June 30th, here in the boardroom, which we'll get to that in a minute. The local auditor has recommended that we amend our budget every year since we started with audits and doing this, especially this year, which has been very volatile as far as a lot of things going on. By law, the budget has to be available and on public display for at least 30 days prior to its adoption. So this will fulfill that. Obviously, there's 30 days, more than 30 days between today and June 30th. The original FY '22 budget was done on September 14th of 2021. A lot has happened since then, and the following slide is going to show that. There's a lot going on here. The yellow is the original budget. The green is the tentative amended budget, and I want to use tentative very purposefully because these numbers will change between now and June 30th. I guarantee you, they will change. They're going to change for a lot of different factors, which I'm going to get into here in a little bit. But you can see we started off, the original budget was 61.6 in revenue, 61.1 in expenses. That was done again back in the middle of September. The tentative amended budget as you stand here right now today is 67 million in revenue and just a little bit north of 67 in expenses. Still both budgets are in the black. Some of the reasons of some of these things changing, you can see that a lot of those numbers changed. The education revenue projected to decrease approximately 200,000 from the original budget because of the need to move some of that money to the bond fund. And this is where things kind of get in a shell game. You can only pay certain things out of certain funds, and certain funds can only get certain types of revenue. You can't just take money and just divvy it up wherever you want it to go. There's a rhyme and a reason and legalities involved in that. The bond fund particularly, due to the district abating property taxes. Again, abating property taxes mean we did not collect property tax monies to pay for the bonds. That bond fund can only get money from 3 different funds, or 3 different places, 3 different sources. Taxes, which we abated, didn't collect, or EBF, education-based funding money, which, being an old guy here, that's the old general state aid. It's a new term, EBF, it's the same general state aid that we would get from the state government, as well as the county school facilities tax, the CSFT monies. Those are the only 3 sources of revenue that you can use for the bond fund. The taxes we're not collecting, so that just means we can only use the sales tax funds and general state aid funds. A lot of that, when I did the original budget in September, was coming out of EBF. We needed to change that, which I'll get into in a little bit, to get into the bond fund. So we had to decrease some of the revenue going into the education fund. The expense side of the equation for the education fund are expected to increase approximately $775,000 from the original budget due to a lot of different expenses throughout the budget, most of which are related to the ESSERS grant, ESSERS 3, which we started to see what we were going to get about the end of August. It really came to fruition about September. We were already in the process. The budget had already been adopted at that time, so some of that money has changed from that purpose. Going into the next fund, O&M, operations and maintenance. The revenues are projected to be up because we are expecting to receive and have received more money in sales tax money, almost $1 million more. Also, corporate personal property replacement tax is up more than was in the original budget in September, to the tune of about $795,000. And again, ESSERS money grant, $1.7 million in that. The expense side of the O&M budget are projected to be increased from the original budget, approximately $2.8 million, due to all of the different projects that we have going on throughout the district. And again, some of that, or a lion's share of that, was in the ESSERS 3 increase of almost $1.8 million. The debt service fund, or the bond fund as it's sometimes called, had an increase in expenses of approximately $242,000 from the original budget. If you remember back to, I think it was November, December of '21, we refinanced the ARVs. And in that, there was an additional payment that was not in place at the September budget that we had to make 2 payments during this fiscal year that will not be here in '23, but that's a whole different budget to work on. So that is where, going back up here to A, I needed the money from the revenue of the ed fund to come into the revenue of the bond fund to pay for this bond amount. And that's why that last sentence on there is reflecting that. So it's kind of a shell game of taking revenue from one fund, just like if you do your own personal budget, gas prices increased, and maybe you had to cut back on a vacation fund in your own personal budget, so you take it out of the vacation, you put it into gas or food or whatever. Same kind of concept, just more zeros at the end. Transportation funds projected to be increased of almost $485,000 in revenue in the form of aid from the state. The expenses are also projected to be higher than what was in the original budget, $644,000, due to the bus lease increase. If you remember back when we did the bus lease increase, that went up, as well as a couple other expense increases in that transportation fund. The only one that didn't really change a whole lot was IMRF and Social Security. It's basically stayed the same since the beginning of the original budget. Capital Project Fund, this is Fund 60. This has probably seen the largest movement. It's due to the number of projects that we've got going on in the district out at the high school and then over at Lift. The projected expenses are approximately almost 1.5 million more than the original budget. And the revenue relatively matches that expense amount. Again, from CSFT money and from ESSER's money. This will change as we get closer to the June 30th date. So let's see. Obviously, we have a lot of different accounts, and we added on. Basically, we're adding on another building. It's like creating another school. With that other school, it has a lot more accounts. So there's 2,200 individual accounts that we're dealing with in the business department to come up with a budget. These numbers have the potential to change moving closer to June 30th, and they will, on the revenue side, as well as the expense side with the major construction projects that we have. So the only action required tonight, after seeing all the numbers, the only thing that I need you to do tonight is to set noon, June 30th, 2022, to have the budget hearing here in the board office.
Yeah, I would like to establish a budget hearing for noon, June 30th, 2022 will be here in the board office. So we don't really need.
Oh, we don't need a motion?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's just gonna be part of the.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions before I move on to 4.3? Okay, 4.3, board action to establish fees for the child care program at Lift for the 22-23 school year, or this coming August. We need to set the fees for the child care program that we're going to be doing for our youngest of students. Katrina Ferris, who is the early childhood director, has developed a parent agreement that outlines the procedures for parents and staff of the little leaders that we're calling them. And in addition to developing the agreement, Ms. Ferris gathered information from daycare providers through the Mattoon area to determine a market rate, kind of what's the going rate, to establish the fee structure. And this is what we have. We would like to recommend the following fees for the child care program at Lift across the street. Infants and wobblers, basically 0 to 2, is $180 a week. 2-year-olds is $160, 3-year-olds is $160. And we would make that recommendation for the board to approve those fees.
I need a motion in a second, please.
Motion.
By Erica, second.
Yes.
Any questions? I have one. What, will this only be during school hours? And like if we don't have school and there's vacation day or whatever?
I'm deferring.
Yeah, because it's like a childcare lab, it's gonna run just like during the school year. It'll be 7:45 to 3:45 every day. will be closed when schools are closed, except for like teacher and service day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
When will registration be open for all that?
The registration will roll out, probably,
We're hoping tomorrow.
yeah, tomorrow, yeah, it's ready to go. We just, we're gonna announce when it will. We'll talk more on Thursday, probably.
Very soon.
And how many children will you accept in each?
Oh, so the infant route is like 1-to-4 ratio. The wobblers, the little bit older is 1-to-4 ratio. The, full total is like, right, it just is, we're gonna start really small. So the toddler rooms will be, can be like around 5 and the oldest toddler room is 8.
One more question for you. DCFS has to sign off on the licensing, right?
Yep.
Is that started yet, or is that?
It's in the process. We're kind of at the waiting game for them to come in and view once it's done.
And when she's talking about the rate, that's who's driving the ratio amounts.
Yeah. We have a couple different, we have policies, CFS guidelines, as well as, I think called the ITERS, infant toddler environmental rating scale. A couple different places we have to follow their guidelines.
Katrina has put a ton of research and a ton of work into this. She's done an excellent job double checking, triple checking all of the requirements for the program. She has high goals for it to be certified as gold and is doing everything she needs to do to make sure it's going to be high quality, not only for our infants and babies, but also for the students who are going to be learning how to run their own daycares if they so choose. So she's done an excellent job.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, will you call roll?
Weaver?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Captain?
Yes.
Overton? Yes. Hutchins?
Yes.
Schindler?
Yes.
Thank you. The last one is a really good one. I hope I get to do this every month. Board action to accept donations to the Mattoon School District. From time to time, we receive donations. We'd like to get the board's approval on the following donations that we received since the last board meeting, and there's 2 of them. We recommend your approval in accepting a $1,000 donation from Jeff and Sally Salmons to be utilized for the tuition of 1 student at LIFT for the upcoming school year. And while this is the first donation we are specifically receiving from LIFT, we think we're going to get numerous ones of those as we progress throughout the year. So that's the first one. We'll just kind of do these both at the same time. The second one, additionally, we received a donation from the Landon Lincoln Credit Union for the $1,500 to be used for the STEAM summer camp. Dr. Hill presented that, I think it was last board meeting about that. So we got a donation from the credit union of $1,500. And our auditors have told us when we get donations, we need to accept those from the school district needs to accept those and donate, or, we give letters back to the people so that they can use those for tax purposes and so on. So there's a rhyme and a reason why we're doing this, but we want to make sure, obviously we want to, thank the people that are donating to us, but also we want to make sure everything's above board and you guys know where the donations are coming from, what the numbers are that we are receiving, and what the intent is for the donation. So we like to recommend that we accept those donations.
I need a motion in a second, please.
Motion. Second.
Any questions?
Yes.
I have a question.
I do too, go ahead.
Like on the $1,000 for the student, do they pick the student or do they pick the district, or how's that work? Can they pick?
They cannot pick the specific student. How's that going to be picked then?
Yes.
So we are developing a local process. Step 1 is for the board to accept the donations. Okay. Step 2, we've had a couple initial conversations about if we're able to do an endowed scholarship. If we get enough money to have an endowed scholarship, then we can just use the interest from that account to give more scholarships. And they have some pretty specific requirements on the process that is required. We anticipate using some of the people who are on our committees to help us design the programs as part of that. So there are very specific stipulations, and when we get to the point of getting ready to award those scholarships, we'll have a process for the board to see.
Will that be open to all districts, or is that going to be Mattoon School District that will be awarded those, or are you even there close to that yet?
That'll be a part of the process,
Okay.
whether or not they can stipulate, like, for example, McLean's done a great job working with Cabot and Tuscola, and they've pledged some money in the future as
Okay.
well, and so we're trying to work out with them. Obviously, they want it for a specific program,
Sure,
and so there's some freedom
Sure.
there, but then in terms of like, is it only Tuscola kids? That's where we would have to tease out what legally we're able to do,
Right.
if it goes into
Right.
one of our funds.
thank
We
you.
have board policy that dictates some of that, and this is a part of the reason for the acceptance of donations, because board policy that the board has accepted and established requires that, but there's also a piece in there that allows the donor to offer recommendations how
Sure.
those dollars are spent. So
Thank you.
This is the first step in that
Sure.
process, like Christie was saying. We have to get the money, and then the next thing is we're gonna have to set up a bank account, but we can't set up a bank account until we have the money, and on and on, so.
Can't have the
it's
money
kind of
till it's
chick-
approved.
Yeah, it's chicken egg thing.
So you want us to be quiet and approve?
They're good questions, they're really good
Yeah, they're
questions.
really good questions.
And if people are watching or listening or review this and they want to give money, they're gonna
Yes.
have those same questions.
Sure.
So,
And this, we matter of fact, I signed the letters today, to donate or to designate about what these are, so like Jeff and Sally Salmons, they'll get a letter back about, for tax purposes or whatever. So, yeah, anybody that wants to donate, obviously, we're recommending that, and, I'm very thankful for that as well.
Very good.
Okay, for clarification, do our students pay a tuition?
No.
So, do the students actually pay a tuition for, like Tuscola? Do those students pay a tuition, or does the school?
each Board of Education has decided that, so part of the MOU, those school districts that have entered into that agreement with
Mhm.
our school district, their board decides. So each of the 16, 17 school districts that are in, each of those school boards locally made the decision whether or not they were going to cover the cost for their students to attend, or if they were gonna have their students pay a portion.
And then our students are not billed?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, we've had a motion and a second, we've had a question, will you please call roll?
Larson?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes,
Overton? Yes. Hedges? Weaver? Yes. Scanlon?
Yes. Okay, item 5, reports and recommendations of the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Dr. Scosi, you are up.
Thank you. The board has before them the May personnel report. Item 5.1A, certified resignations. Lindsay Skepina is resigning effective the end of the school year as Lima Elementary School fifth grade teacher. Some certified appointments, Jamie Bartles as Matt Middle School eighth grade math teacher effective the 22-23 school year. And then these three folks will be another one as well. Kendra Behrman, Ethan Carlson, Jacob Pearson are all part of the Bionic interns. District Guidance Counseling interns, part of our Bionic program at High School, getting ready to start for next year. Rachel Probst, Mattoon High School ag teacher effective for the 22-23 school year. Taylor Reynolds, Mattoon Middle School special ed education teacher effective for the 22-23 school year. As we move forward here, continuing, I have another Bionic intern, Corbin Roth. Then Brandy Trussell, Mattoon Middle School dean of students. She's a special ed teacher currently in Mattoon Elementary School effective for the 22-23 school year. And Sarah Schultz, substitute teacher effective, immediately pending licensure. It's exciting to see all these recent graduates that want to get in and start subbing in years out. Classified resignations, Hannah Jaco, Franklin Preschool Home Visitor, has done a great job and is retiring effective June 30th, 2022. And Tamara Lehman is a preschool paraprofessional at Franklin, has done a great job for us, is resigning effective at the end of the 21-22 school year. Classified appointments, Casey Bean, Franklin Preschool Pro, effective 22-23 school year. Sandra Elsie, Transportation Service Center bus driver, effective 22-23 school year. That's like hitting the gold mine right there. And then we have Haley Harley, Williams Elementary School Parapro, effective 22-23 school year. Tricia Herman, another bus driver, 22-23 school year. Carrie Persino, Williams Elementary School Paraprofessional, effective the 22-23 school year. Courtney Seaman, again, Franklin Preschool Parapro, 22-23 school year. Ben Dean, longtime secretary, retired from our district, come back as a subsecretary, effective 22-23 school year. Kyle, Easton, sub parapro, effective immediately. Ron Walk and Josiah Welling, thank you, volunteers and subs effective immediately. I know. Extracurricular resignations, Emily Lucino Alfal is resigning as assistant dance coach effective in the school year. She's done a great job for us. And then Alec Mann is resigning as Maxine Middle School assistant baseball coach. Extracurricular assignments, we have Laura Roberts taking over Maxine High School yearbook sponsorship for the 22-23 school year. And then you have a gaggle of coaches and assistant coaches and anything that's in our Maxine Education Association contract that gets paid a stipend is listed here for the upcoming school year. If it's TBA, it's to be announced, and we're still looking for folks. So, but we all like to get this out on the board and before the next year starts. This position has been posted, and administrators have worked to recommend and people in play those positions. In addition, there's an addendum. As always, certified appointment that Nancy J.C. is Franklin Preschool 1st to 3 home visitor effective June 1st, 2022. Veronica Wilson, Maxine High School special ed teacher effective for the 22-23 school year. Classified resignation, Cheryl Cox as a transportation service center bus aide effective May 23rd of 2022. Sherry Ayers is going to be the lift secretary, longtime middle school secretary. Is going to be the lift secretary effective July 1 of 2022 under the facility. Jennifer Baldwin is birth to 3 paraprofessional for the 22-23 school year. Jessica Johnson, birth to 3 paraprofessional effective for the 22-23 school year. Resignation, Troy Hackey is resigning as Maxine High School cross country coach effective at the end of the 2021-22 school year. And then continue with some resignations. Nicole Moss is resigning as Maxine Middle School Lighthouse coordinator effective at the end of this 21-22 school year. And then also as Maxine Middle School National Junior Honor Society sponsor effective in the 21-22 school year. And then extracurricular assignments, Trey Hackey is recommending him for head girls varsity basketball coach effective for the 22-23 school year. And then Minos as the high school assistant dance coach effective for the 22-23 school year. Are there any questions?
Oh, that was a lot.
See none, then I would make a recommendation to the board to accept the personnel report as presented.
I need a motion and a second for the personnel report.
Motion.
By Ashley, second.
Yes.
Gary, thank you. Any questions or comments? Please call roll.
Kepley.
Yes.
Overton. Yes. Hedges.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Scanlon.
Yes.
I have 57 vacancies thus far for the upcoming school year. Licensed staff, all but 5 have been filled thus far. That's by the end of it, so we're doing well, folks. It's good. Item 5.2, board action to approve safety windows on the first floor of the lift facility. I know normally I just do my personal report, but they asked me to present this as well. I oversee the safety plans for the school district and coordinate with first responders and all our school safety plans. As you know, we're developing our school safety plan and plans over in that facility as that's being built and working with our first responders. We put in a grant with the Maxine Police Department, the U.S. Department of Justice this early fall to obtain some dollars through grant activity for facilities, for facility use, for some exterior school safety glass on the bottom floor of that whole facility. As you know, it's glass facility over there, but we want to update that. Done in other facilities with some school safety glass. That grant did not go through. We got notice about a month and a half ago that was rejected. However, another grant opened up and we're applying with the Maxine Police Department for the U.S. Department of Justice to obtain that. But so therefore, the cost of putting in that glass, school safety glass, is at $94,146. So we're recommending the board that we move forward with that and do that. If we receive the grant, which there's a high likelihood I believe that we may, the second time around, as we've been told, from the U.S. Department of Justice, hopefully that'll hold true. That will be accounted for in town's amended budget that you'll get in June 30th. And if we receive those dollars from that grant, will be journal entry then. Are there any questions?
After I do motion and second. I need a motion and a second to approve that, please. By John, second.
Yes.
By Gary. Okay, are there any questions or comments?
The grant amount, would it cover all of it?
All but 4,000.
All the 4,000, okay.
That's
And what
we-
happens if we don't get the grant?
We're still moving forward with that and will be accounted for in the amended budget at time each.
And that would be covered by, sales tax, basically, sales tax.
It's holistic class.
Yeah, and that's, with the childcare being on that floor, it's very important that we have that there.
Oh,
So I was just curious on what the plans were, if whatever happened. Thank you.
A
Are there any
question.
other questions?
Yeah, how come it wasn't part of the original bid? Do you know why this wasn't included in the bid for the class?
We don't, because we didn't have any intention initially from the first initial until we received the grant from the Department of Justice, or the opportunity to apply for the grant. And then that's when we decided that we would then look to secure that grant, which, as they described, was unsuccessful in order to another entity.
And can I also say that initially, I don't think they were planning on putting the children on the first floor. They were gonna do it on the second floor, if I remember right. But then laws and stuff like that, they had to be on the ground
There was,
floor.
there was some work with the
Is that
Katrina work
correct?
with
Yes.
DCFS. and that
Yes, it
changed.
had to be on the ground floor,
Yes.
so we may not have needed that particular type of windows at that time,
The original.
at the original bid. So that, I think that's also plays a role in that.
Oh, absolutely. Any other questions? Will you please call roll?
Hedges,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Capelli,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Scanlon.
Yes. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome, thank you.
I'm up there, just.
Reports and recommendations of the Assistant Superintendent for Student Services, Dr. Hill. You are up.
I always have the prettiest slideshows.
I love this.
I was really excited about this one. See you later. Okay, so in February, the board approved expansion of our ag education programming into the middle school. We're really excited about that. Lots of work has been done since February to make that become a reality for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So tonight, I'm going to share with the board an opportunity to receive some funding that will help offset the costs of an FFA, a junior FFA chapter. In the state of Illinois, middle school FFA chapters are very rare and very special things. So we've caught the eye of Future Farmers of America and looking forward to maybe entering into an agreement that would allow us to apply for incentive funding grants. So that's the end of mine tonight, just to kind of go over what's in that memorandum of understanding so the board can decide whether or not that's something we want to move forward with. So what is this incentive funding grant for ag ed? So in the first 2 years of a new program, especially at the middle school level, there's automatic startup support at $2,500 per year. In subsequent years, the club or the program can continue to receive funding, but it's based on its merits. So if we get quality outcomes, we can apply for that ongoing funding, which really will just offset some of the costs associated with the greenhouse and a lot of the materials and supplies that our teachers will need to run that program successfully. In order to be eligible for that funding, there are 4 requirements. The first is that we have an agricultural teacher who is licensed or endorsed to teach those classes. So they have to have on their teaching license that they can teach ag education. Secondly, those middle school classes have to be offered for a minimum of a quarter. So this basically prevents school districts from receiving the funds if they're going to do like an ag education week and then it's over. So the requirement is that it's more than a period and it lasts for at least a quarter. The third requirement for funding eligibility is that we charter an official FFA chapter. So in our planning work since February, this has been a really exciting piece of discussions because we have a successful FFA chapter at our high school. This would be an additional chapter in Mattoon School District. And the long-range vision is that students who start in FFA at 6th grade will be able to build their books all the way through high school and have incredible outcomes that results in scholarships and job placements and a lot of opportunities. So we're excited about that. And then the final requirement is that our coursework at the middle school must be part of a programmatic pathway that connects to our secondary CTE courses. So the good news, those are the 4 requirements, and I can tell you today that we meet all of those criteria. So since February, we've been working towards that, and we can apply with confidence knowing that we have those 4 things. And it's due to the hard work of these people. Kim McQueen Wilson, she loves gardening. She has a garden that's ginormous, and it's just a hobby garden at her house, and she basically feeds the whole town of Windsor, I think, and all of her friends. here she is with her granddaughters and her passion for gardening, along with, she just really likes doing cool stuff with kids. She applied for this education endorsement and she got it. Yeah, so she's our 7th grade math teacher and also endorsed to teach ag. So I'm just like, very rare. She's our unicorn. Also, I want to thank Megan Coy. Megan is our Region 4 advisor. And she actually has to sign off on any application for incentive grant funding. And Megan's relationship with Carl Raby, Megan is a Sullivan grad, part of FFA there, but Megan's relationship with Carl and Carl's excitement about expanding this program led him to share that with her. She's been at our curriculum meetings that we've had since February, and she reached out and said, I think you guys could get this money. So really, it's a team of awesome people developing a lot of cool things to make this happen. So thanks to them. The board has the full copy of the MOU. That was just kind of a summary of what it is. It will require signatures from several people, including Michelle, Tim, Nate, Kim, Laura Sullivan, our EP's director, and then Megan as our FCAE advisor. So, do you guys have any questions about it?
I think it's awesome that we're doing this.
I do
It's
too.
just amazing.
I do too. Mr. Q, your staff's pretty excited, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the middle school buzzed about it the other day.
Yeah.
During a tour there, they were talking about upcoming things, and that was one of them that they spoke of.
The middle school has always done a great job of expanding opportunities for kids. And middle school staff is usually the type that's like, yeah, let's jump, we'll figure it out. So we're thankful for that. Are there any other questions? Okay, if not, then we recommend board action to approve the middle school agricultural education memorandum of understanding.
Motion by Ashley, second, Erica. There are no questions. Will you call roll?
Hedges,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Kathleen, Overton,
Yes.
Skilmore.
Yes. Reports and recommendations of the superintendent. Tim.
Thank you. Item 7.1 is requesting board action, thank you, to approve a memorandum of understanding with the Mattoon Education Association as well as the Mattoon Educational Support Personnel Association. And this surrounds the time of, it's actually Public Act 102-697 that was signed into law, I believe, on April 5th. That is in the requirement for staff to receive administrative leave days for 2021-22 for those that were vaccinated, taking them due to COVID. However, after some counsel with our district attorney, as well as discussion with both MEA and MESPA presidents, Rebecca's here this evening, as well as Davey Simpson from the Support Personnel Association, that benefit is going to be extended to both vaccinated and unvaccinated. So vaccination status is not going to limit the benefit extended to our employees. There are some documents that are required that Dr. Scosi's office will have to collect from staff that wish to choose to do so. And we plan to roll that out in June based upon staff's request for those administrative leave days to then replace sick days that may have been used over the 21-22 school year. So Rebecca, anything you want to add from your perspective on that? I think our staff are excited about this opportunity. And we appreciate working with both associations to support this moving forward. So with that, I would recommend to the board the approval of this memorandum.
I need a motion and a motion. Erica, second? Ashley, questions? I have one. This is for parapros, everybody.
It is, it's for all staff.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
So moving forward, like say, start, like saying next school year, well, these, no, this is just all passed.
This 21-22 school year.
Okay. And nothing's in the works that you know of for the
Please
next
no.
school year? Please go. I know, I understand.
Well, and as you can imagine, nowadays office has some work on the logistical side to go back and share with staff, and then staff would then have to receive that documentation.
Bless you.
Will you please call roll?
Weaver,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Kepley,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Hedges,
Yes.
Scanlon.
Yes. Thank you.
Item 7.2 that I have, I feel like this is a good opportunity to kind of share a celebration in regards to some of our facility acquisitions and now some intergovernmental agreement to sell property to the Eastern Illinois Area Special Education Cooperative. As many of you know, a lot of the slides that you'll see in this evening's presentation were presented to the board back on February 8th. When the board was encouraging of us to continue down this pathway, the possibility of divesting of these two properties to Easy, who rents both of these properties. So the first property is Humboldt School. As many of you know, it's located on the northeastern corner of Humboldt. And it was originally constructed in 1926 as a K-9 school. With some additions in 47 and 58. And between those times, as well as the 70s to the early 2000s before Easy began renting it, it was used for several different grade configurations. It's approximately 26,750 square feet. It includes a cafeteria, kitchen, a gym with fixed bleachers. It is still boiler heat with window AC units, and drives and sidewalks and parking lot are in fair condition. Mr. Stolfus can attest to some of the needs that are there in regards to some grading of that front property area that we'll kind of talk about. So this is a list that Dustin has kind of worked with some contractors to establish some estimates as to what it would cost if we were to continue to own this property and the investments that we would likely have to incur over the next 5 to 10 years. There's just a list of those there, anything ranging from window replacement to potentially the entire gym floor. So the range of those estimates are just shy of $400,000 to a little over $429,000. So again, these would be future investments that the board would have to look at approving for the upgrading of those needs. Over the course of the 2020-2021 school year, these are our known audited amounts that were spent for this property, totaling about $12,000. Again, Easy rents this, so the board receives an annual income of $129,900. That's from the same lease that I believe has been in place for about 8 years now. 15 of the 65 Humboldt TLC students are from Mattoon, so approximately 23%. Easy charges that off to each of the districts that have sending students. So we, in essence, pay back about $30,000 for the rent of those facilities for our own students. So that's the portion that we still receive that $129,900, but we also pay almost $29,900 back. So that with the revenue, with the expenditures and the proportion that we pay for our students, our net income, our net revenue annually is around $87,990. So likewise, in walking through the Adult Life building, which is located on South Route 45, it's a 2-story building, approximately 21,000 square feet. It also includes a kitchen. It also has boiler and window air conditioning, and the drives and sidewalks and parking lot are in currently fair condition. Just some history of that building. It was constructed in 1953 for an oil company. That was when the district acquired it. It was then leased to Eastern Illinois Education for Employment, or EFES. As Christy mentioned in her presentation, Laura Sullivan. So she and her staff have been housed in the Adult Life building. And then since 2011, then Easy began renting that in 2018. Similar to Humboldt, there are a list of potential and future facility costs that the board would likely incur if continued ownership within the next 5 to 10 years. A roof, the potential for elevator installation. Right now, the leasees, Easy would like to see some additional use of the second floor of that building. But as you can see, that comes with a substantial cost to the property owner to install. We would obviously, if we chose to stay as property owners of that, we would likely enter into, at the expiration of the lease, renegotiating that cost to recoup some of those savings as well. But as you can see here, an estimate of cost anywhere just north of $500,000 to just a little bit more than $600,000 for those future facility needs. Here are the 2021 audited expenses for the adult life building, again, around $17,000. The annual Easy income that we receive is just shy of $60,000. The EFES rental income that we receive is just shy of $4,000. So again, walking that out in the percent of adult life students from Mattoon, the net effect of what that is ultimately $7,151 is Mattoon's portion of the rent for the students that attend at the adult life building. So a net revenue of about $39,000. So again, the history and the next steps. This conversation was approached in 2012. And at that point, both parties determined that they did not want to move forward with the transition of property, and the discussions then resurfaced in just this past year, 2021. In February, both boards discussed and supported looking into the possibility of Easy acquiring the two properties over the course of the previous 2 months. The development of the resolutions in the intergovernmental agreement took place with Easy and our team with our legal counsel. And then here we are in May, where it will require the approval of both boards' resolutions to support the acquisition of property and the sale of property. And one of the stipulations within that contract is to close on or before June 30th to transfer this property within the current fiscal year. So the recommendation of our team is to approve the resolution authorizing the intergovernmental agreement for the sale of Humboldt School and Adult Life School to Easy, inclusive of the following terms. The purchase price has been agreed, $450,000 for both properties. The conditions of the properties remain as sold as is. Easy has agreed to waive any building inspections. The seller, school district, and the buyer will secure appropriate title insurance policies, and as I mentioned, close on or before June 30th. Any questions?
Can you do motions?
Yep.
May I have a motion and a second, please?
Yes.
Gary?
Second.
Any questions? I just want to say, as chairman of the Easy Governing Board, we have set, Tony called, and we're going to set a governing board meeting 2 weeks after this meeting to approve that, hopefully approve it from that governing board, so.
So once they approve it, it's done at that point?
So right now, the request is for you to approve the resolution that will allow for the sale of these properties. So it won't become officially approved.
Until they approve.
Correct.
Any other questions?
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have voting authority as a part of the governing board?
Do I have what?
Voting authority?
Yes.
She will likely seek guidance from legal counsel to
Yeah.
decide. So, yes.
Any other questions? Crystal, will you call roll, please?
Larson?
Yes.
Kepley?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Skibble?
Yes. I have a question. Did we sell Hawthorne already to them, or is that?
No, we are maintaining Hawthorne, the ownership of Hawthorne as a school district. So we lease Hawthorne to Easy for their student life program.
Okay, thank you.
But a quick little plug for anyone listening. We are selling Grant Park, which is on DeWitt Avenue, if anyone's interested in the purchase of another building. So, thank you.
Mr. Pugh. you hear that? Okay.
This to you to get this.
Before we close, if I may, the gentleman sitting in the center in the back, obviously, he's gonna have to be sitting in the center, but must be a celebrity because I've seen pictures of him all over the place. Congratulations on your, you just had a birthday, correct? Today, right? And you just graduated over Eastern.
Clean Teacher and Kristen Weiss both just finished their coursework for their doctoral degree.
Very nice.
And we do not have any other recommendations, unfinished or new business or executive session. So at 8:15, I need a motion by Erica. To adjourn. Please call roll. Stephanie?
Yes.
Overton? Yes. Hudson? Yes. Weaver?
Yes.
Larson? Yes. Skip.
And if I